call it, fake news. Some of the networks and some of the papers, it's so the level of dishonesty where they'll take a story that should be good. I know good from bad.
That was Donald Trump speaking with Bill O'Reilly about fake news. But CNN's Chris Cuomo took it very personally.
Fake news is the worst thing that you can call a journalist. It's like an ethnic disparagement. We all have these ugly words for people. That's the one for journalists.
I've never met Cuomo, but he seems like an all right guy. But the phrase fake news is equivalent to the N-word? I don't think so. So tonight, we're going to begin a segment examining fake news stories that have been pushed by the mainstream media since Donald Trump's election. Everyone's familiar with the fake news story about the MLK bus being removed from the Oval Office and the phony intelligence report about Trump and Russia. But the Federalist's Daniel Payne put together a fantastic rundown of some of the other fake news stories that you may not have heard about. Here's some big ones. After Trump's victory on November 8th, rumors spread online that transgender teens were killing themselves in response. A Guardian writer tweeted out this unsubstantiated rumor, and then the lie spread. Multiple other outlets picked it up, and at the end of the month, the story had been shared nearly 100,000 times just on Facebook alone. The original tweet was deleted, but there was no factual basis for it. Nevertheless, it was whipped up an incredible amount of anti-Trump hysteria, completely irresponsible. Number 2. On November 22nd, New York Magazine writer Gabriel Sherman dropped a bombshell, asserting prominent computer scientists and election lawyers were demanding a recount in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania because there was evidence of hacking or manipulation. The story went viral on Politico, Reuters, and the New York Times, and even MSNBC. But the very next day, it turned out it was demographics, not hacking, which explained the inconsistencies that Sherman was pushing as evidence. The damage had already been done. And fake news like this significantly contributed to the perception among many Americans that Trump's election was illegitimate. Politico's Lorraine Wohlert published a report in early December claiming that Trump's Treasury pick, Steve Mnuchin, had overseen a company that, quote, foreclosed on a 90-year-old woman after a 27-cent payment error. The story was shared by the New York Times, NBC News, and the Associated Press. But guess what? Almost everything in the article was false. The 90-year-old woman was never foreclosed on. She never lost her home, and it wasn't even Mnuchin's bank that brought the suit. Eventually, the story was corrected, but as is true with many of these stories, people absorb the fake news, but never the correction. On January 26th, the Washington Post's Josh Rogan dropped this bombshell, that there was a mass exodus at the State Department in protest of Donald Trump, writing that, quote, the State Department's entire management team just resigned unexpectedly. The story was shared tens of thousands of times on social media, reposted by the Washington Post, Bloomberg, and ABC News. But the truth is, this is standing operating procedure. Mark Toner, State Department spokesman, clarified, quote, as is standard with every transition, the outgoing administration, in coordination with the incoming one, requested all political appointed officers submit letters of resignation. The bottom line, Democrat appointees leave when Republican presidents come in, and Republican appointees leave when Democrat presidents take office. The entire presumption of the article was false. Now, it's no wonder the majority of Americans don't trust the media. According to an Emerson poll, 53% do not trust the press, just 39% do. But look at this. According to that same Emerson College poll, more people trust President Trump than don't trust him. Yet still, the media continues to call President Trump a liar. Roll the tape.
It's called Why Nobody Cares the President is Lying.
That was Brian Williams, who was demoted at NBC for lying, accusing President Trump of lying. I think the irony was lost on everybody there. Now, here are some real news stories that aren't getting some attention. A new poll by Politico shows that Trump's immigration ban is one of the most popular executive orders to date, with 55% of Americans approving of it and only 38% disapproving. Also, Intel announced a $7 billion investment in Arizona, leading to 10,000 new jobs, hopefully. And the First Lady, Melania Trump, won her libel suit against fake news merchants. And then there's Ted Cruz, eviscerating Bernie Sanders over Obamacare on live TV, reducing the socialist senator to rubble.
If the problem is government is corrupt, why on earth would you want more power in Washington? I want to take power out of Washington and empower the people.
And Trump's approval ratings are strong, both over 50% in Reuters and the Rasmussen tracking polls. So there you have it. And when people complain about Trump tweeting so much, he wouldn't have to if he wasn't under constant assault from fake news. We also discovered a bit of fake news regarding the climate. Blockbuster revelations out of the NOAA that scientists conspicuously manipulated temperature data to, quote, discredit the notion of a global warming hiatus. In other words, fit the narrative that global warming is real, even if the evidence doesn't verify it. We just received a foot of snow here in New York City, so Waters World decided to go out in search of global warming. No. Ah! What do you think about all this global warming?
It's for the birds.
You're for the birds. You know what I call all this?
Winter Wonderland?
Global warming.
It's climate change.
You know what I call climate change? The seasons. A lot of global warming out here.
Yeah, as I feel.
It is winter, though, so this is what happens in winter, they say.
Occasionally you do have snowstorms in winter, Jesse. That's what I'm told. That's what Janice Dean tells me.
There is no global warming. I don't believe in it.
You don't believe in it? Oh, Al Gore's going to come find you.
Quiet. The whale is in trouble. I have to go.
Pretend it's Al Gore. Oh, you missed! You throw like a girl. I'd actually like a little more global warming. This is a little too cold for me.
Global warming has bad consequences.
Like what? I can go to the beach like all year? You just don't want to see me with my shirt off.
Well,
What do you think Al Gore's thinking about right now?
He's probably in someplace really warm.
He's probably in some island on his jet.
Exactly.
What do you think?
No carbon emissions from that jet, by the way.
There are always people who are going to try to aim at the messenger if they don't like the message.
Anything you want to tell Al Gore?
Have a great guy on day and night and weekend and a good snow.
What are we going to do about this global warming?
I don't know. Maybe your president could do something.
Ooh, he's your president too.
No, I'm from Finland.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You know whose fault all this snow is?
Who's that?
Trump's.
It's always Trump's fault.
Everything else is Trump's fault.
Give me a break.
Up next, they're back.